We acknowledge the Yagara and Kaurna nations as traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and learn, and their continuing connection with the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to them and their elders past and present.
All content related to this program is for general informational purposes only and contains stories and discussions around mental health that may be disturbing to some listeners. If you are concerned about yourself or someone you know, please seek professional individual advice and support. More details are contained in our show notes.
More dopamine hits more often. Feeling FM.
You're in tune with Feeling FM. DJ Manipulator Cheesy Jock here, helping you mask how bad the workday really is and setting the mood for your evening. Coming up in the next 15, we're gonna pump in some classic moods, including this one from your formative years between 13 and 25 to get that serotonin flowing. And a throwback to that dopamine hit whose lyrics are now problematic, but you choose to ignore because you once danced to it all night with your best friends.
I married a girl when I was 27. She was like 12.
Oh yeah, is it legal to feel this good? We're also going to have a serious chat with the villain from reality TV who tells us they've been edited that way so it's not true. But we don't believe them, so we play some suspicious music to undermine their story. But don't worry, we won't talk for more than 30 seconds, and when we do, it'll have music underneath it like this, so it sounds just like a wall of music, including during the news, when we run this track under the soul-destroying news of the hour. Love a ballad and some heartbreak? This song you used to cry about your ex should bring you right back there.
I was codependent in a relationship that was shit.
Then we'll pick up the tempo and bring you right back from the edge and keep you addicted to those dopamine hits. Plus this fresh dopamine hit, which you've told us you love, and we'll replay every 3 hours and squeeze every last drop of dopamine out until you hate it and never want to hear it again.
Yes, we played it over and over and over and over and over.
Right after this ad from our sponsor that pairs music you love with a product they're trying to sell, so you buy more of their shit.
Here's a song that you once loved from your youth, and now we use it to sell you cars and stuff.
Life seemed pretty good until my husband told me he was leaving me after 20 years of marriage. Now we just need to sell the house and the car and I have to start everything from scratch. Just when I thought I was heading for the best days of my life. I gave up 20 years of my career to look after the kids and the household, and now it looks like I'm going to have to work well past retirement age.
Looking for the perfect set of wheels to get your life back in gear? Inspo Tracks from Toxic Positivity. Available everywhere.
With Inspo Tracks, 4-wheel driving just took the front seat and I feel like I'm 18 again.
Inspo Tracks.
I reckon we got a few top 40 hits in that sketch there, Andy.
I can just see all of those arias piling up now.
Oh, my trophy room. My cabinet's getting full. But maybe not. But this is a good reminder, though, of how music is used every day to manipulate us.
And this is Reframe of Mind,
where we deep dive into discussions about mental health, joined by some of Australia's leading minds to expand our understanding of the world and ourselves.
Because we don't exist in a vacuum, and the way we talk about mental health shouldn't either. We're your hosts, Andy Leroy and Louise Poole.
Last time on Reframe of Mind, we explored the significance of music from a cognitive perspective.
It was the music special.
And this is the music less special about the music less special. Because after our conversation with Professor Bill Thompson,
Distinguished Professor of the Department of Psychology and Director of the Music, Sound and Performance Labs at Macquarie University,
and Muireann Irish,
Professor of Cognitive Neuroscience at the Brain and Mind Centre of the University of Sydney,
we really started to think about how music has been there for us in our own lives.
The good times and the bad times, and even the times we didn't really think it was having an impact on us at all. But it's everywhere, as Bill Thompson pointed out.
Music is not just entertainment. That's not all it is. It might feel entertaining, but it has a profound effect on virtually everything about us as human beings, about how we relate to other people, how we see ourselves, about our psychological well-being, and it can have genuine impact on the brain, and it can be used as treatments for neurological impairment. So music is much more than mere entertainment. It can have profound effects on individuals and on society.
Well, it's had a profound effect on everything in my world at the very least, Andy.
Your world has been full of music for years.
I started in radio as volunteering as a radio announcer back when I was 14 years old.
Yeah, wow.
So it's a while ago, FYI, even though the woman I met at a barbecue on Saturday night said, "No, you don't look over 30. I assured her I was. Thank you, though.
Yes, you definitely are. Yes. I think we started around about the same age, I suppose. Like, not the same year, because obviously, there's a bit of an age gap there between us. But I was probably about 14 when I started as well, but not in community radio. I was really lucky to have a radio studio in my high school. So we would actually, part of the Year 11 subjects, we'd go down and produce a radio program during lunchtime.
So little lunch and big lunch?
Big lunch, yeah, broadcasting to big lunch, definitely.
Captive audience, this is the way we like it.
Narrowcast in a captive audience, absolutely.
It's interesting you said year 11, because I remember a story that you keep saying over and over again in the course of our business together about how little Andy used to get his cassette recorder and tape things off the wireless and then put together his mixtapes and his promos and...
Yeah, look, I did edit the theme song of Petticoat Junction because the guy on Channel 7 kept talking over the end credits. So, that was way before, I know. That was way before year 11. I guess technically I did start really young with an interest in audio and music. My love for ABBA. Like that. Yeah. Like I'm in the middle of
I know your love for ABBA.
I'm planning an ABBA-scape at the moment.
Andy's actually a member of the, what's it called? Is the fan club online where he regularly posts. And not on social media where, you just share. If someone says something, you're like, I love ABBA, but he's in the official fan club.
It's sometimes hilarious though, because you think that I'm actually, quite, I'm quite obsessed by it, but there are people out there who are obsessed by ABBA. Such is their pull and their magnetism because they are so good. I love them. I've loved them since I was 4 years old. That's how good they are. They've been around a long time.
Long enough that they were probably one of the bands that I was playing in my first little job as a 14-year-old on community radio.
Oh, without a doubt.
I did.
At least Dancing Queen.
At night, I coolly hosted the Friday Night Youth Club. I was one of the hosts of that. But because I loved music and loved radio, I also used to do a lot of other stuff during school holidays. And I'd go in and I might host, like 9 a.m. or something like that. And it was in the 90s we're talking about here, which when you look at like radio music, people tend to go the last few decades when they play stuff. So when I was a 14-year-old community radio jock, I was lining up music for the oldies audience at the time. And so I was coolly running the youth show at night, but during the day I was playing hits of the 40s and 50s.
Ring-a-ding.
And
wow.
Sometimes the 60s, if I got lucky.
But you know what? I love all that music, though. You know what I recently bought? Here's something that you don't know about me. Something I recently purchased.
Is this a secret from beyond?
Something I recently purchased it's like a greatest hits compilation, but it's 80, count them all, 80 songs of Bert Kaempfert and his orchestra. Wow. Do you know Bert Kaempfert and his orchestra?
Oh, I don't, but I do know.
I think you should.
I do know a bunch of Engelbert Humperdinck.
I'd like to think that Bert's actually a step up from Bert. And, nothing against Engelbert Humperdinck, but Bert is actually, he's got an orchestra, man. And when those tunes play, your foot's tapping and there's a sense that you want to sing along, but there are no lyrics. So you kind of mimic the sounds of the instruments.
Okay, I can top this.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, this would have been I reckon I was pre-10, and we had a very old record player that I think my grandma gave us. It was one, those huge ones that take up half a room.
Yeah.
It also had a 45. It had a 45, but it also had a, what are they now? 78s.
Well, there's 33 and a third, which is the LPs, and 45 was the little singles, but 78s were the old ones.
Yes, the old ones, the gramophone style old ones. And cool. She gave me a collection of some records that she had at the time, which included things like Hot Butter. They had more than
Popcorn.
Popcorn. They had more than one song. They had a whole album of songs.
They did. Mouldy Old Dough was one of them.
And but I also
Mouldy Old Dough.
On my 78, I also had, I think, a Glenn Miller band and his orchestra.
Awesome.
Poo-poo to you. I can beat that.
Was it Midnight Serenade or Moonlight Serenade?
I don't know. I've repressed
Midnight Sonata, maybe. I don't know.
Of the coolest stuff in that record collection that I had, she had some 45s for the Rolling Stones. So I had Get Off My Cloud, which I liked playing.
Your grandma had Get Off My Cloud.
Well, this is probably why she gave it to me. She probably.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Get Off My Cloud. And
she probably thought it was some kind of hymn or something.
I had Simply Reds, If You Don't Know Me By Now. That was one of the newer 45s.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were a few
like she had
Ingleberts in there.
Taste.
Yeah, I can't remember anything really cool out of that, actually. It wasn't long before I got into cassettes after that, so.
Sure.
And then I went through my cassettes and then I did what you did, which is I made my own little radio promos.
Yeah, and isn't that fun? When we first started this venture of ours, and I'm like, I don't really like editing. It's a bit of a drag. I love it. I actually love it.
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten how much I love it. But you putting together your little promos with your music, I used to actually hear songs, right? And this is probably going more towards my early to mid-teens. This will give you a bit of an insight into my psychology and my creativity, my imagination.
When you were broadcasting to your captive audience?
In my head. I would hear tracks on an album, but then I would imagine them as they could either be opening credit themes or closing credit themes for films. So I had these whole stories running in my head and going, run credits, and then the song would run.
Did you have a theme song when you were sneaking around like Peter Griffin in Family Guy?
Oh, no, I didn't, but I think maybe I could be a late comer to that. Okay, so that's all music we love, but is there something that you don't like? I know that, when we were speaking to Bill in the last episode, he was saying you really shouldn't hang shit on people's music tastes because it's all personal choice and what gives us individual joy is good. I really can't stand death metal, though. I'm really sorry to any death metal fans out there, but I just don't get it.
No Cannibal Corpse?
Don't even know what that is because I wouldn't go near it.
No, that was the one that we listened to it because Bill did his study on that, and then I played us a couple of tracks from Cannibal Corpse, and we both went,
yes.
Okay, well, this is not for us.
This is not for us. Yes, I'd completely erased that from my memory.
I've been to a lot of shows as a music aficionado and a former music director of radio stations over my lifetime, and I'm up for trying something new. So I have actually seen some very, very heavy metal bands. I went to... Who was it now? It's a older band, I think 90s or 80s, and then they recently came out for a tour. And I want to say Motley Crue, but it's not Motley Crue.
Metallica, maybe?
No, it's not Metallica. It's,
Could be Bon Jovi, because they're too obvious.
No. Heavy. We're talking heavy.
Like Pantera or something.
Yeah, like something like that, but it wasn't Pantera.
Oh God,
but it was a recognisable name. I'm going to Google it now. Because the thing I wanted to say is that actually when I got there and I listened and I gave it a red hot go. And it wasn't bad. I could really see why people loved it because we were sitting in the stands, but down in the mosh pit, it was just this sea of men in their middle ages wearing black T-shirts and blue jeans, and they're all dancing up around, and they're like moving as a wave together, and they were having a massively fun time. For me, it was the music sounds aggressive, and I didn't like, and it was causing me anxiety. But I actually loved watching people have such a fucking good time at this show that isn't something that I would have necessarily chosen for myself.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction you made too. I think, in describing the music and what I don't like about it is its aggression. I like upbeat stuff, and I like, some things with a bit of melody and stuff. But if I can't actually identify the melody, or if it sounds really, really aggressive, then that's where it kind of stops with me. Did you find it?
I'm looking. I'm searching heavy metal concert Brisbane.
Do you keep your ticket stubs?
Oh, I used to, but then I don't know where I put them all, so I just throw them out.
Can you remember any of their hit songs?
No.
If you hum it, it would go something like this probably. Those lyrics were improvised, by the way.
Were they? I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I'm going to find... okay, I'm looking through the concert archives. Here we go. So looking at this, it was either Slipknot's performance on October 28th, 2016, or it was Motley Crue, the final tour on May 19, 2016. I feel like it was one of those shows.
Right.
Oh no, it could have been Black Sabbath on April 25th, 2016.
We didn't think of Black Sabbath.
Actually, I think it was Black Sabbath. Look, it could have been Slipknot. Okay.
Do you remember the weather? Was it cooler or was it a warmer evening?
At some point in that period in 2016, I saw possibly all three. I do remember seeing Motley Crue, and I do remember seeing Black Sabbath, and I can't remember whether I saw Slipknot, but that also sounds like the kind of thing that I would have seen for shits and giggles and then left halfway through because I really didn't like it. So
because you're doing more shitty than giggling.
One of those three, I dipped my toe into the heavy metalness of a concert and appreciated the joy that it brought to the people who were there, and then bailed the fuck out after 30 minutes and went home.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know what?
That was a long walk.
And also, you may have even mentioned the name of the band to Bill when we initially interviewed him.
Oh my God, if it's in that interview, it was there the whole time.
You've got somebody in the audience at the moment going, it was Black Sabbath. Louise, it was Black Sabbath. You don't have to do the research. Listen to your own episode.
I think the point was, though, that about like hating or disliking music. Like, I don't hate heavy metal. Like, there's not everything always floats my boat at the same time.
I agree. Like, depending on how I feel, I'm in the mood for one thing or another. But I don't know if I'm ever in the mood for heavy metal. And again, nothing against people who do like heavy metal, but it just doesn't float my boat.
I think when things are more melodic, I go for them. I'm a 90s grunge rocker at heart. So a lot of that stuff, particularly a lot of stuff off the early Silverchair albums, was really quite heavy metal, and I love that. Like, I still love that because it evokes those feelings. Oh, really? Things like Israel's Son, yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I do like heavy metal. Like, I didn't
off the Frog Stomp album?
I didn't buy Frog Stomp, but, I really liked their music.
No. They got lighter after Frog Stomp.
I would actually consider them more grunge, see?
Now, well, I'll play you Israel's Son later.
Yeah.
And maybe Shade. I think that those two from Frog Stomp would be ones that I would consider more heavy metal.
Silverchair I'd kind of group more with groups like Nirvana, that Seattle sound that was big in the 90s.
We can debate it after if you want.
Okay.
Seeing we can't play music on the Musicless special.
Fair enough.
So you just...
Yeah, hum it to yourself in your own heads if you're familiar with it, or go YouTube
go to YouTube after this.
Yep.
I mean, we could even put it in the show notes if we remember.
Well, we can, and we can put a poll up there, do you think this is heavy metal?
Tell us how it relates to your mental health. I mean, sometimes it might seem like a long walk, but trust me, the episode is relating to mental health because music and mood, they're intricately intertwined, because whether we reach for a song to make us feel something or whether the song elicits emotion from us and manipulates us into it, it's a huge part of our lives.
So what are some of the other stuff that you actually love?
Now that we've ruled out heavy metal, because I've had such a long career in radio in the music industry, that actually the songs that I once loved, because I used to listen to the radio to put myself to sleep at night when I was a kid. I'd have my little hi-fi system on, and it'd be on when I went to sleep, it'd be on when I woke up. I don't know, music for me felt like, and when I like it now, still feels like connection. And there's something about it that I love it. Like, I deeply, deeply love it. I love listening to a good song. I love listening to when an artist crafts words. I love listening to well-played instruments across all different genres, whether it's a pop song or Glenn Miller and his orchestra, or, I've seen some amazingly, weirdly intricate I've seen some really weird stuff that I love, like whether it's a musical or a Baroque orchestra. There's something about music and the way that it is a common language that connects people that I feel like that thing that I love about concerts is that shared experience that I get to be a part of this with other people. And I think, even if you're listening to a song on the radio and I'm listening to a song on the radio and we have no other connection than that, we're still having a shared experience.
There I go back to ABBA again. There was a story recently, I think it was Dick Cheney. He was the head of the military and stuff, I think, from memory.
Yeah.
In George Bush's
and he shot someone when he was hunting for a duck, I think.
That's the one. That's the guy. Loves ABBA.
There you go. So you got something in common with him.
Yeah, I do. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought I'd actually have something in common with somebody who ran the military, the US military? But the story is that he was at Mamma Mia and the person in front of him didn't know it was him, but wished the person behind them would just shut up and stop singing because he just sang through everything that they were singing on stage, because that's how music connects us.
Yeah, but to be fair, that is annoying when you've got someone singing loudly around you.
I must remember that next time at a concert and sing loudly. I went to see Cyndi Lauper here in Adelaide. Oh, now hang on. It would have been 2009, 2010. It was the 25th anniversary of the release of She's So Unusual, which is her debut solo album. And I was sitting there and they told us you can't get up and dance or whatever. And we're going, oh, yeah, whatever. So we didn't. But I was sitting there and I was singing word for word every track that she was singing live. It was great. And the person at the back of me tapped me on the shoulder and said, just get up and dance if you want to get up and dance. We don't care. Like, you can see, I'll tell you, have a really good time. They're the sorts of ways that people don't normally connect. But there's permission in that environment because everybody had a shared love for the musician and this person could see that I was actually really fucking enjoying it. I didn't get up and dance because it didn't block their view. But I think you're right, like there are barriers that do come down when someone has that shared experience in a concert, but also more broadly as well, music is something that really unites us.
I think that the Cyndi Lauper that you're talking about, you might have actually had a bit of concert PTSD from dancing, because I don't know if you remember this, but we saw Neil Diamond together at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre.
Oh,
years and years ago.
Yes!
And Neil Diamond said, everyone, get up and dance. And we got up and danced. And the guy behind us yelled at us for getting up and dance. He's like, I've paid for these seats. I'm like,
I can't say. You sit down.
We paid for these seats. Neil told us to get up and dance. It was fucking Sweet Caroline.
Dance.
Jesus.
So get up and bloody dance. Don't bloody tell us not to dance when Neil told us to dance.
Neil told us to get up and dance.
So get up and dance yourself.
So you probably had ongoing trauma from that.
I think you're right. And all the huffs and puffs, every time he stood up to dance, you would hear the...
How dare these people dance at a concert where they're told to dance? It was Sweet Caroline. I'm sure that guy said it to us because we didn't stand the whole time. I'm far too lazy.
No.
It was like it was like his 10-minute edition of Sweet Caroline or something like that.
Yeah. There was a shared experience on the other end of the scale.
I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I also I went and saw you remember the band America and Horse with No Name? They only really had one song. I saw them at Jupiter's back when it was Jupiter's Casino on the Gold Coast. The guy was sitting in front of me. He turns around in the middle of it to me and he's like, "Can you stop clapping? It's annoying. Can you just stop clapping along?"
Oh, see, killjoys should not go to concerts.
What? No. Look, there's a lot of things I can understand in terms of concert etiquette. I hate when people scream, like piercing scream in your ear.
And whistle.
And I don't like when they intentionally stand in your way and then they hold up a fucking iPad to film something. I mean, I'm all for taking a video, but I always try to take it from down around where my chest is so it doesn't obstruct anybody else's view. Or when they talk I actually don't mind the singing so much, but when people talk exceptionally loud, like they're behind you, and it's like they're having a conversation, they get louder and louder. Or if they sing very loudly, badly, like an ex of mine did, and I just want him to shut the fuck up.
See, I sing quite well, so in my opinion.
I think there's a volume of singing, but I would never have turned around to somebody and said, stop dancing at a concert.
Stop enjoying yourself.
Look, if I'm at a concert, and I've been to a lot of concerts, and I don't like to necessarily dance, and other people want to dance, that's on me. I'm happy to sit down and just go,
and
you know what?
listen to the live music.
You dance. I'm just going to chill out here.
Yeah. I mean, they were looking at the back of his head anyway.
At Neil Diamond?
Yeah. We were at the back of the stage.
I saw Neil Diamond a number of times after that.
He's great in concert.
I just bloody love Neil Diamond. He's one of my favourites. Other times people did get up and dance around me, but they didn't get yelled at.
I guess that's also, like an argument for going down onto the dance floor, getting the tickets on the dance floor or the mosh pit. Like, you're really in the thick of the energy there and that live connection with the artists.
Yeah.
It's such a great experience.
Something about having the seats in place, while convenient and good from a viewpoint of view, it does kind of distance you a little bit from that connection with music. Maybe that's the difference between a festival and a regular concert, except for the fact that, all the marijuana smoke is just that you feel like you're actually a part of it because you're on the same level as everybody else. Not great
Maybe
from a viewpoint of view.
Maybe the marijuana's got something to do with it.
Maybe. So
really feeling it.
Long Walk, when you said, what types of music does Louise like? Honestly, Louise loves almost all types of music. But as we discussed in an earlier episode, because of all the years of me programming music and listening to the same stuff over and over again, I actually find that the stuff that's the common now, I can't really listen to it anymore because some of it triggers, jokingly what I call music PTSD, where it makes me think of something and associate that with it. But maybe it's just a case of once you've heard something enough times, the joy's been sucked out of that. So what I would gravitate towards in terms of music I love now is stuff that's either really new or stuff that maybe hasn't been heard, but it's not commonly heard.
Yeah, you're going to be surprised when I say this. Really?
ABBA?
Sometimes I give ABBA a rest.
No.
But I always dive right back in with Arrival. That's my gateway ABBA every time. I go back to Arrival, and as soon as I hear the opening refrain of When I Kissed the Teacher, I'm there. I'm back. I'm going into Voulez-Vous. I'm going into Waterloo. And now I'm going on Voyage, can't stop me.
See, ABBA for me would be a collection of songs I've heard too much.
Yeah, you really need to listen to the albums, honestly.
Yeah, but even the sound that's on Voyage, it's too the same as the other stuff for me. So I'm not shitting on ABBA, but
I know
bands
You'd
have a
know
style.
Better than to shit on ABBA.
Yeah. Look, honestly, Adele is like this for me now. I recognise that her new stuff, I haven't heard her new stuff over and over again, but it just sounds like Adele. Coldplay just sounds like Coldplay to me. Ed Sheeran just sounds like Ed Sheeran. And it's not to shit on any of these artists because they're all fantastic artists. It's just... Yeah.
Louise needs something new, something fresh. Bring it in.
You know my Taylor Swift obsession?
I do know your Taylor Swift obsession, even with her music.
It's a bit of a strange, I suppose, exception to that rule, but because there's so many Taylor Swift songs that I've played over and over on the radio. But when I listen to her music, they're not the ones I gravitate to. Most of the time I'd do a skip on Shake It Off and listen to something else. And the songs on the albums, which never received that kind of airplay, are so brilliantly written from a storytelling musical point of view. I just adore that.
I think Taylor Swift is your ABBA.
Taylor Swift might be my ABBA. And
I think she might be.
Do you know who else I just adore for a songwriter, kind of always puts me in a good mood vibe, is Jason Mraz. But not the radio songs from Jason Mraz, not I'm Yours or Bubbly.
His other stuff.
But the other stuff.
Yeah. You know who, now, here's someone I love and came across her in the 80s, but she's still producing music. Alison Moyet. Yeah, Invisible and those hits from way back when. But her last album, it's a few years old now. I think it's about 3 years ago since she released an album. It was called Other, but her lyrics Her lyrics have such depth and her voice is so commanding. It's so powerful and strong. When you sing along to somebody like her, you're really using your gut, you know, you're kind of really bringing everything up because it's so emotionally charged. It's great. Love it.
I'm listening to Lizzo at the moment, but I've loved Lizzo for the last few years, but she's got a new album out. It's just that strong empowerment. I mean, beautiful voice, but the lyrics in that as well, it's like, yes, you go, girl. We've got this shit. Fuck men. You know, it's lovely.
Fuck men.
I don't know how much Lizzo you've heard, Andy.
That'll be 0.
There's a good song you should listen to, and it was off the last album, and it's Soulmate, and it's like, I'm my own soulmate. You know, I looked in the mirror and I thought, damn, she's the one. And she's talking about herself, and it's like, yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
That's good. Self-affirming lyrics. I think.
Yeah.
Good on her.
Good.
Well done.
Good.
Good on you, Lizzo. I'm going to listen to that for your music now.
Okay, so this is all well and good when we're talking about the music that we are able to choose, the stuff that we like. What about when we're not actively able to choose the music?
Yeah, well, Bill made an interesting observation about how music is used to shape our thoughts and our choices.
There's a lot of music that's imposed on us in society. And so we get music in shopping centers or in individual shops, in elevators. And sometimes it's there for a reason that's quite generic, such as to ensure that people are relaxed or to establish an ambiance that you want to establish. You know, this is a fancy restaurant, and so we're playing classical music. We're not playing folk. There is clear evidence that music does manipulate us. You know, there was a study done by one individual to show that people are actually willing to pay more for bottles of wine when the music in the background is fancy pants music than if it's just like, you know, teenage kind of folk music. So we actually, you know, even smart people will be manipulated in subtle, unconscious ways by the music around us. But I also think that for some of us, it's an irritant. So, you know, I think it's important for institutions like aged care facilities to not assume that any music is going to be beneficial for everybody, because for some people it would be an intrusion.
Neil Diamond, right?
Yeah.
I know we spoke about him just before, but
Yeah.
I went into this shopping centre once, and you know how they play the music to deter the hoons from hanging around out the front? Mm-hmm. And they were just playing Neil Diamond. It was like Kentucky Woman. And I'm like, how would
Awesome.
how would this music deter anybody from hanging out? I want to hang out and listen to this.
They repelled one group to attract a whole bunch of others.
The hoons, the youth of today don't like Neil Diamond. And yet there I was loitering outside the Woolies at Beenleigh going, fuck yeah, Kentucky Woman.
Thank goodness the local hoons hadn't discovered irony.
So I suppose that's one way people use music to manage emotions. Using it to discuss, or like those toilets that play, you know, those washable toilets where they basically shut the door and gurney it all out. And then they're always playing like Beethoven or something.
Da 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 da. Yep, that one.
Yeah. I suppose they think that people don't want to go in the toilet and listen to classical music really loud and shoot heroin. But I don't. To be honest, I don't think people would care.
I don't think so either. I think music is probably the last thing on their mind if they're in that kind of scenario. To be honest.
What are some other ways that you would use music to manage emotions that aren't necessarily related to pooping or loitering?
In my younger days, I had a little playlist.
Is this going to why does this sound like it's going to lead into Andy's sexy slutty time?
There were tracks that people at university would put on when they were having sex. I can't remember specifically what songs I chose myself as bonk songs.
Can I just sneak in there and just say I dated somebody who had Susie Quattro, who just
Devilgate Drive
wanted to put on the whole Susie Quattro album.
Come alive!
Yeah,
come alive!
Yeah, continue.
Did you get through the whole album? Or just the first track? First half a track.
Stumbling in. It was a 48 crash of...
48 crash! I can't figure out whether... I don't really know whether the music selected predominantly on the university campus where I lived was chosen more for energy.
I'm glad you went to university and you weren't playing these songs for your captive big lunch audience.
Oh, no, I wasn't at all. But was it for energy or was it for mood or was it just to cover the sounds of sex? Because those
That's
walls
where
were
heavy
thin.
metal would come in handy.
Definitely. And there was a bit of heavy metal going on, not just the bed frame banging on the floor.
What was the music to bonk by then?
I've really got to think now, like I've put myself in it because I can't really remember specific tracks that were popular for bonking, but I seem to remember as well there was like a music special on Triple J about bonking music.
You weren't bonking
time.
to the Hot 100 countdown?
No, I don't think the Hot 100 was really a thing then, or it was just starting off. Like, this is 1991.
Well, I tell you, in 1991, I wasn't bonking anybody. I was about 12.
I wouldn't think so. I should hope not.
But I would say it was one of those young Louise fantasies of being wooed and romanced to Boys to Men. And I always imagined that would be my sexing song. But I actually don't think I've ever sexed to Boys to Men.
I think I sexed once to Tina Arena. Romantic.
Oh, if we ever talk to her, I'll tell her. What was it? Sorrento Moon?
No, I think it was Burn.
How?
Slow, romantic.
I think I Need Your Body would have been better, but
it depends on the mood of the. It depends on what stage you're at. Yeah, because there's foreplay music and then there's rip and run music. When my dog died when I was 13, changing gears, I actually played a Culture Club song on loop to help me get the tears out. I would actually lay there in bed with my tape recorder. I'm laughing, I'm not crying.
Was it Karma Chameleon?
Ludicrous. It wasn't Karma Chameleon. I knew you were going to ask that. It was not Karma Chameleon. It was an album track called Victims. It was very sad. And when Helen Terry started hitting those really mournful notes and soulful notes, oh my God, did those tears flood.
Seeing we're talking about Dead Dogs in the 90s.
That was actually the 80s. But go on.
Seeing we're taking it down this sad path here.
Yeah.
I mentioned I always used to sleep with the radio on, right? And I was like, I think 13, 14, and we'd just recently had to euthanize my little doggy Axel Fox because he wasn't very well. I was very sad. That was the first major pet like that I'd ever lost.
Same with Sooty, yeah.
Yeah, the first one's like always the hardest. And I had this dream one morning before I woke up, and it was like I was talking to him and he was saying, "It's going to be okay. I'm always going to be here."
Aww.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'll send you some signs or something." And then I woke up, and as I was waking up, the lyrics on the song on the radio it was a Celine Dion song, and it was I think it might have been Think Twice, and it was basically about how I'll always be here for you or something like that. So I'm like, did Axel Fox send me a message?
A little message.
Or did the radio infiltrate my dream? There was actually two of them, and
I'd like to think the former.
I can't think of what the second song was, but there was two of them in a row. I felt like and there's been you know what? This is now the musicless special about the musicless special with the twist for the woo-woo.
Because we love our woo-woo.
Many, many years later, it was around, I think 2012 or so, I had a cat called Eve who died. And that night that I had to euthanize her because she had cancer, I went and saw Dolly Parton. And then I cried all the way through the Dolly Parton concert. And now every time I think of Dolly Parton, look, no, I love Dolly Parton, but I certainly do remember that was the day that Eve died because I'm like, well, I've got the tickets and what else am I going to do? I'm going to sit home and cry, so I might as well fucking go. And so I sat at Dolly Parton and cried instead.
Wow. You know what? There is actually, like in some theories of psychology, this concept of anchoring. So it's where you actually have an emotion that is linked to something. Yeah. So it sounds like you anchored Eve's death in Dolly Parton.
I might have done. That wasn't the music tie I actually meant to have in the woo-woo story. It was that because she was then probably my next biggest pet. Like I had, Axel Fox when I was a kid, and then I got my cats when I moved out of home. And so she was the first of my adult cats to die. And I was thinking about him and I'm like, maybe Evie could send me some messages. you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then for the next week, I just kept intersecting with Stevie Wright's Evie everywhere I went. And it's not a common song to be playing, but a number of times that week I kept hearing it. Like I'd go in a room and it would be on the radio or
Evie. Was it part 1, 2 or 3?
Well, it was all the parts. They all count.
All the parts.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all the parts.
Messages from the Dead, Pets Edition.
When have your dead cat sent you a message? Let us know via email now.
I think coming back to that, like how you
accidentally anchored the death to Dolly Parton.
Yeah. I think what I did unwittingly was anchored grief to that song from Culture Club. And so it turned me off the song for years. I couldn't listen to it without thinking of Sooty and crying.
Yeah.
I was using that to soothe myself, obviously, to find a way to actually, I don't know, maybe I didn't want to wallow, but I certainly wanted to honour the memory of my dog who had to be put down.
And I used Dolly Parton to distract myself. I'm not upset that I anchored Eve to Dolly Parton at all because now, you know, like even when I saw 9 to 5, the musical the other week, I'm like, oh, yeah, this reminds me of Eve.
But were you crying?
No.
See, that's
because
good. That brings back Eve's memory.
Yeah, I made my peace with that. It's just, you know, even when I do things like watch Dolly Parton's Christmas special, you know, it's totally anchored to that now. But it doesn't bring back painful memories.
She starts singing Here You Come Again, and here comes Eve again.
So sadness, so a negative experience is one way we can use music to manage our emotions. What about something less traumatic, like doing the housework?
Traumatic for some, but with a bit of music.
I mean, this is the Neil Diamond episode from Louise, I think.
Does Neil let you do the housework?
No, but Neil Diamond's Hot August Night from Madison Square Garden in 2011 or whatever it is DVD was my housework DVD.
I get that.
Oh, yeah, I'd put it on and every time, blah, 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 and I'd do that. And for a while I was staying with a friend of mine. And whenever I do the housework, I'd put it on to the point where anytime I mention Neil Diamond now, I can see her physically cringe because she has the trauma associated with the Neil Diamond housework playlist. But for me, I'm like, oh, love it. Yes. Let's listen to Neil Diamond and clean. And then, but I've caused her the trauma for that.
I've got to be careful if I try and use it for something like that as well, because I can easily get distracted by how much I love the song and then just stop everything and start singing. Best with headphones for me. You know, music does actually help with toil, because I remember having like this huge patch of garden I had to dig out, but our ground's really hard and it was a bit of a task. And I thought, ugh, got my phone with my library on it and I played some Blondie, and boy, did I have fun doing that gardening. I was singing along, I was digging, I was swinging the mattock, I was breaking ground, and that time passed in no time. It's a good distraction, is what I'm saying.
Well, using music to manage emotions is a very good tool to have in our toolkit.
Yeah, it is. And Professor Muireann Irish, who is the director of the Matilda Centre for Research in Mental Health and Substance Use and the National Health and Medical Research Council Principal Research Fellow at the University of Sydney.
She brought our attention back to a well-used strategy that even an American president used to use while he was in office. We had this idea this morning in our morning meeting that we should try and start every day with like a pump-up song, because Obama used
I love that.
Lose Yourself. And then we were like, we're going to listen to our pump-up song, and then we're going to go back and we're going to say 3 good things that happened yesterday and then 3 good things that we're looking forward to today. So
I love it.
That's our new strategy going forward.
That is brilliant. And we've just got to keep thinking up new strategies, don't we? So that they're not boring.
Yeah, got to keep having fun somehow.
Somehow having fun, because we are social animals, and the physical distancing is really creating havoc with that at the moment.
Can you imagine if Marie had that full title on her business card? That would be huge. That would be an A4 sheet.
She'd need a giant banner. And
that's not even half of what she does. She is so well accomplished.
And we spent her time talking about our boom song.
We did. So, like, Marie, I know all this stuff is really important, but what's your favourite boom song? What's
Tell us what pumps you up.
She was a good sport. Really love chatting to her.
I would love to say that we actually stuck by that strategy of playing a pump-up song and then
For more
acknowledging
than 2 days.
No, I think we stuck by it for a little while. We did actually start a Spotify playlist called the Boom Songs. And then every time something good happened, we'd pick one of the Boom songs. And because the one that I kept playing was Little River Band, John Farnham playing The Win. I don't think you had the same passion for it as I did.
No, I didn't. Can't remember what Boom song I chose now.
You wanted that Shakira one from Zootopia.
Yeah, I love that song. Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
I think the Boom song strategy, though, it's partly the pump-upness of it, gets you in the vibe. It makes you feel like those inspirational lyrics. I also think there's a connection there, the dopamine, though, like that urge to, because songs make the dopamine, yeah?
Yeah.
When we love a song.
They really get a cracking.
Yeah. So I think that urge to let's get the dopamine flowing with some music and then let's milk it.
Yeah, and that can really kind of have some great benefits in a lot of situations. Hey, like pumping yourself up at the beginning of a meeting, or I've been to events where they use music to bring people back from breaks, and you always come back with a really good feeling because the track's good, it's energetic, and then you're launching back into something new and good times.
Good times.
Good times.
Good times until you play the song so much that
it's a bad time.
You've milked all the dopamine out of it and you never want to hear it again, which is essentially that all we ever used to do in commercial radio as a music director. Once the song tested really well with an audience, might be a new Pink song and the audience loves it and the scores are really good, then we'll flog it every hour and a half until you hate it because we're squeezing every last bit of dopamine out of it.
And the thing with Pink,
yeah.
I love Pink, but the thing with Pink when she was at the peak of all of that commercial radio popularity is we'd be burning one song of hers
and another one comes
and halfway through burning that she'd release another one which we would also burn.
Oh, yeah.
So we're burning 2 of her tracks simultaneously. Oh my God. She's such a great artist though.
I know.
But
I actually do
we
like
burnt
Pink.
her songs.
I think of it now, like now that I've framed it through my recent diagnosis of ADHD, it's like the ADHD urge to milk every drop of dopamine out of something and never want to hear it again, essentially is something that we've been replicating. Katy Perry Raw, good example. When that came out, thought it was a great song, a pump-up song. I literally sat outside of an ex's house with I had a crock pot full of food that I had brought over and I was waiting for him to turn up, but he was running late from work, arsehole. And I had Raw on a loop and I was just sitting in the car just like screaming it out and like, yeah, I'm so pumped up. I think I might have also been doing Shake It Off at the same time because that was that was new. I can
imagine
then.
you would have been.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember Raw particularly being that. And then now I listen to it and I'm like,
I think as soon as they start using it on promos for reality TV, it kills the buzz.
Once it makes it to promo-ness.
Yeah, you're going to hear it in every ad break for the next 6 months.
I know I'm talking about the same people again, and this one's not going to be Neil Diamond, although it could be because Neil Diamond does give me a lot of dopamine still. Mm-hmm. Bloody love Neil Diamond. But Jason Mraz. So a few years ago, like I think maybe 6 years ago, I took myself on a holiday to the States and I hired a car and I drove around California and Arizona and all these different places. And I drove out as far as the Valley of Fire and I went through the beautiful rocks at Sedona and stuff like that. And Jason Mraz was my soundtrack to that. So I don't know how well you know Jason Mraz, Andy, but there are so many.
Not as intimately as you do.
Beautiful.
I have actually one of his albums, but yeah.
Which album? Is it one of the early ones?
It would have been the one with I'm Yours on it.
Oh, see, I think that they've that's nice, but I think they've actually gotten better with time.
Yeah, right.
I think the music now is a lot more grounded and it comes from the heart,
Yeah, which, happens with the growth of artists too. I will go back and listen.
Okay. Awesome.
On your recommendation.
Oh, thank you. Because I think perhaps those earlier ones are really good, but there was still that need to push him commercially, which is where now I think he's kind of gone, fuck it, I own a coffee shop and half of the vineyards in California. I don't need this. And I'm just going to release whatever makes me happy. And that makes me happy.
They're Mine is his new song.
Makes me happy that he releases that kind of music. But the albums that I was listening to on that trip, there was Love. There was, I think, the other one after that as well, which was it's gone from my head. I'm going to Google it. I'm Googling it because you never know. Our listener might want to search this.
Yes, maybe. But also, while you're Googling that for the detail, it's almost, the detail's important to you. The detail is in also that link that you have to that trip from the songs that you actually listen to. Like when you hear any of those songs, you're probably right back there.
Okay, so the albums that particularly I had then was Love is a Four-Letter Word and Yes. That was the one I was thinking of, Yes, with the birdie on the cover. And there's a live album as well that I can't see listed here in Google. Mm-hmm. It might actually have just been a playlist of live songs, and that's the one that had things like that other one that I can't think of.
Do you think if we email Jason Mraz's agent and say he's featured on Reframe of Mind, he might speak to us in the next series?
Do you know he might? I almost got an interview with Jason Mraz. He was coming to do one of those Day on the Green concerts, and it was all lined up, and then fucking COVID. So I was so close.
Oh, my God.
So close to telling Jason Mraz how much I love his music, which I'm sure he hears all the time and will mean nothing. But my point is, so I'm driving along in this beautiful scenery. So around those areas, it's just these amazing red rocks just coming out of the ground, and the roads shape around them. And I'm listening to Jason Mraz, and he's singing, 93 million miles from the sun, and it's just evoke. And so that trip, there were so many moments with me alone in the car with Jason Mraz, driving around these places that I'd never seen before, and literally me bursting into tears going, it's all so beautiful. I know.
Yay.
So
that's definitely something you want to hold on to.
It is. And then when I got back from that trip, I got back to work, for the first few months, I would actually, on the way, this was back in the days where I didn't live very far from the office. It was about a 10-minute drive at that stage. Yeah, I would actually, on the way, I would play a Jason Mraz song as my pump up. There was that good live song, which is like the one that I'm trying to remember, the rap one, and I would nail all the lyrics to it. And I'm like, yeah!
Yeah, that's always a good feeling. Always a good feeling when you nail the rap break in a song. Okay, so maybe I can bring the mood down again, because that's apparently what I like to do in this episode, but not really.
Well, before you bring the mood down though, what if I do a stepping stone to the mood coming down?
Go for it.
On that trip, I decided that I was in love with Jason Mraz, and like if he ever met me, then we would so totally be together.
Doesn't really wash with your story right now though, does it?
And then in one, I was in love with the soul inside that could create these lyrics, and then on like one of my last nights in the States in a hotel, because I think I'd set like an alert for Jason Mraz popped up, because I thought, what if I run into him while I'm over here and then like we fall madly in love? You never know. You never know.
Alert for Jason Mraz while you're travelling.
He does have all those vineyards. And the alert came through that he'd just gotten married.
Oh, how deflating.
Off the market. So.
Oh no, the tears would have run in a different direction then.
Turn me gay.
Because we all know we turn gay. Right? Microaggression, anybody?
No, I wasn't really sad, but it was one of those moments where it was like, oh well, I guess that's not going to happen now. Like it ever was.
I know.
And now you can bring us down.
It's not really a depressing story. Like, it's not something I'm going to get emotional about now, because it actually happened so long ago. And I think, distance is always a good thing with any kind of emotional stuff. But when my mum died, you were in my life then when mum passed away.
Don't ask me to remember what songs we were playing besides Pink, though.
Annie Lennox probably would have been in the mix. No, I think it was a bit before the release of that song. Anyway, when I was in Sydney, because I travelled back to Sydney, obviously, when I heard that she'd passed away, and we were getting ready for the funeral and getting ready to clean up the house for the wake and people coming over and that sort of thing. I actually intentionally got out one of her records that she used to play. Not something that I would ever listen to or possibly have ever listened to ever again, but she used to love Max Bygraves. I don't know if you're familiar with Max Bygraves. Max Bygraves is a singer of the era, and he used to sing songs like, I can't even remember all the songs or any of the songs really, except I think he might have sung one called Give Me Sunshine. That's what Morecambe and Wise used to sing at the end of their TV show, but you wouldn't know them either.
No, I don't. You're talking a whole different language.
There's this whole era of music that you're unaware of. But anyway, it was Mum's era of music.
Between Glenn Miller and Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah, this is kind of, I suppose, in the 50s, from the early 50s maybe would be the era. She used to love singing along to it. She'd put on Sing Along a Max, which is the name of the box set that she bought, Sing Along a Max, and she'd sing her ass out. She'd sing along and she'd, do whatever she was doing and have a good old time. Anyway, I decided that when everybody went out, because they had to go off and do something, I thought, well, I'm going to stay home and I'll just sweep the floor or something or do some housework because stuff had to be tidied up. So I got out Sing Along a Max and I put on the record and I was dancing around and I was singing along to Max because I was familiar with a couple of the songs. And then my brother walked back in and busted me and paid out of me, which I thought was fucking awful of him to do because he spoiled my moment of connection to my mum after she'd gone. Anyway, but that's that link back to how we connect to people through music, because it's not something that I would have actually intentionally chosen to play otherwise. But for me to be able to play that in that moment was something that gave me a dopamine hit in the form of I'm actually with my mum at the moment.
Yeah.
See, no tears.
That wasn't that sad.
Well, my mum died. That was sad.
No, that was sad, but the actual story wasn't that sad.
Also, like when I came back to Darwin, obviously I was in a very different state of mind to when I'd been there the day before my mum died. And I remember I did become quite socially isolated. I remember that I actually locked myself in my room for about a week because I'd call up and say, I can't come in today. But I wasn't even leaving my bedroom. Yeah. Yeah, you and a couple of other guys got me to the GP for a mental health plan, which was awesome. But in my mental health journey at the time, I was doing things that also would help me connect to her memory. So she used to love potting plants, for example. So I'd get some pot plants and plant them up and look after them. And I remember I had a bunch of them on a table in the dining room of where I was living at the time. And I was playing Abbey Road by the Beatles. She wasn't a Beatles fan, but my brother had given me Abbey Road for Christmas, I think, or my birthday or something. And I ran out of something. I needed to go and get something, like some milk or something, and the shop was just up the road. So I cranked Abbey Road right up to the fucking top level so I could still hear it as I walked down the road and still be connected to the music. I don't think the neighbours appreciated it. But I could certainly hear it as I walked back towards the house as well.
Is this part of the you creating a soundtrack story from earlier where, music, and then you just...
And music.
You played yourself off.
I think I did. I think I walked off into the sunset to the corner shop.
So, knowing what we know about music and manipulation, can we use some of these things then to do it on purpose?
We had a chat to Bill Thompson about that.
If music is able to manipulate us, can we manipulate the manipulation of the music to our benefit, ourselves?
Yes, exactly. So the fact that music has an impact on us, and it has both explicit effects on us and sometimes implicit ones, means that we can use music to manage our emotions. And one sociologist, Tia Denora, has called this emotion work. She has actually described music listening as a kind of work where we're working on ourselves and managing our emotions. And a lot of people have looked at how the different strategies that people use to manage their emotions using music. For example, we might need more energy. We might be cleaning the house and we just feel like, oh gosh, I think I need a bit more energy. So I'm going to put on some upbeat music and then I'll finish the cleaning. Or we might need to calm down. We've just had a very stressful meeting or interaction with somebody and we just want to calm down and play something that's gentle and soothing. Or we might want affirmation of a disappointment or sadness in our lives, and we might listen to sad music and share in that sadness. So people use different forms of music to manage their emotions in different ways. Usually it's effective, but in the world of music therapy, a therapist's job is to ensure that those mood management strategies are optimal and aren't inadvertently going in the wrong direction. For example, leading to rumination.
Someone else we spoke to about music was CEO and co-founder of La Joie Skin, Daphne Kapitas. She actually told us about a time when she was being bullied, and although there was no music physically present at the time, you can bet that it was there in her mind when she visualised herself on a dance floor.
I just looked at him and I breathed, because breathing is full-on empowering. I lowered my breathing, visualised that I was on a dance floor. I visualised my movements, because I was performing. He was bullying me and taunting me, but you know what? In my head, I was dancing on stage. I had the audience clapping. I had sweat pouring down my face from the amount of dancing I did. So by the time we got to Seaforth, I got off the bus, went into the home, closed the door, and that's where I cried.
I remember the song, Andy.
What was the song?
I remember the Jason Mraz song.
Oh, go on.
The one.
Hit me with it.
No, the one with the rap that I used to listen to on the way into work, and I do the whole rap. It's called "You Fucking Did It."
Of course, it's called "You Fucking Did It."
You fucking did it.
You fucking did it. Woo!
I think that everyone should go and listen to that. It's a live track only. I don't know if he ever recorded it in studio, but a live version of You Fucking Did It. It's like 10 minutes long, and he's like a rap god. So he's so talented. So talented. I would have loved him to write a song about my butterfly. It's a reference for the Jason Mraz fans in the audience.
Is that a euphemism for something?
He did. Yeah, it was. There was I think another line in there about passion.
Butterfly kisses?
Passion in his pants or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
It was one of the more sexy Mraz songs.
Jason's sexy Mraz. A butterfly in my pants.
Actually, I think the line passion in my pants was Kesha, but it was something similar to that. He was definitely talking about someone's butterfly, though.
Did he get butterfly kisses?
One could only hope. Speaking of things to lighten the mood,
I guess for me, like if I'm sometimes I get into work mode, as you know, and sometimes I get so embedded in my head, I get so focused, I pause and I think to myself,
what a wonderful world.
That, but also there's no sound around me. Like I'm working in complete silence and isolation. And so to break that, I will put on some of my favourite music. Not even necessarily to sing along to, but just to have some company or have something in the background.
Do you not constantly have a song playing in your head at all times like I do?
Lately, it's I Have Faith in You by ABBA. I still have faith in you by ABBA.
Now it's You Fucking Did It by Jason Mraz.
I don't know the song.
Well, you will know it and then it'll go in your head like it's in mine. That's really interesting, though. Maybe that's one of those ADHD connections, because I've always felt like there's some kind of soundtrack going on in my head constantly in terms of a musical soundtrack.
I think maybe it's less that I don't have anything in my head, but there's nothing external.
I didn't mean that your head was empty.
Thank you. Just to clarify. I think you're right. There's always chatter and stuff in my head, or sometimes there'll be a music track or something, but rarely. It's the actual realization that I'm sitting in a room alone and there's no sound around me other than maybe the ambient sounds of birds going, in the background. And when I put a music track on, it helps my mental process sometimes. You know, it doesn't always help my mental process, but sometimes it actually helps me to loosen up a little bit and enjoy the moment a bit more.
I think it's something that I mentioned in the chat with Bill, Andy, but remember how I used to use music as a study tool? Like I would take the songs and then I would rewrite some lyrics and I would learn the lyrics to those songs, and then I would go into the class and then I would just basically rewrite the essay and the answers out because I was actually hearing the lyrics to the song.
Because you were singing them to yourself.
Because I was singing them to myself in my weird little brain.
Can you give me an example of a song that you modified?
I modified How Bizarre by OMC.
And what was the essay you wrote?
Mozart's in E minor. It makes minimal use of extreme contrasts and mainly employs subtle changes, typical of the style.
I love that you can still remember that. What grade did you get for the essay?
Actually, I can't remember if it's in C minor or E minor or whatever, D minor, but it was in something minor.
Oh, no.
And it does typically employ subtle change. It does employ typical subtle change of that style. Because I remember trying to jam those extra words in when I was recording it into my tape deck of that style.
I love it. You know what I love though? I love that you can remember the general gist of what you were singing, but you can't actually remember the details, which in that scenario is the important thing.
How bizarre. How bizarre. It wasn't just that one. I can't remember now actually I wonder if I've still got tapes somewhere. I reckon I do in my junk room. I think I would have tapes of me singing essays in. Because I didn't have to learn it for very long. Like it can just be a short thing. I don't know why, okay, I do know why now, 30 years on, ADHD. But if you looked at, if I was reading a book or blah, 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 the concepts wouldn't necessarily stick. But if I took those and then I wrote them into some kind of, it didn't have to rhyme or anything. It just had to basically fit the tune, that I could learn what I wrote by rote and then replay it completely. Like learning lines for a play, I never had trouble with either. But if you asked me to read the text in a book and then remember what it said, I had to convert it to something else or convert it to a note or whatever else. And I found that music was a really powerful way to do that. Ironically, I used to use those music tricks in my music class, because I was writing about Mozart as I studied music in E or C or D minor that did make minimal use of extreme contrasts and mainly employed subtle changes typical of that style. I used to use it in my music class.
Makes complete sense.
The music itself was always fine for me to do. It was just the theory around it. Like, yeah, it was. So I'd buy CD singles from HMV that had an instrumental track on them, record my own song.
It's very ingenious. Very ingenious.
If kids today aren't doing that, I say, why not?
Absolutely. Culturally, we use music to tie us into cultural things as well. I'm thinking specifically around events like Christmas. That's an easy one. Like you say around
Mariah Carey's dun 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 dun, and like that's it. That's the start of Christmas season.
I used to work in retail when I was in high school into university, and my God, from September onwards, that PA system would be flooding Christmas carols and everybody would be sick of them. Everybody. The staff, the customers would go, isn't it a bit early for Christmas songs? Like, oh, yeah, we know, but they play it. They play it.
And now that's going to be in my head replacing Jason Mraz.
You know what I love? I love when I actually put my iPod on shuffle and a random song comes up that I haven't heard for such a long time, and I go, oh, yeah, that's why I love that song. It's like this tiny little hook in one of the bridges or something that you just go, yeah, man, that's a really good sound.
Because we've anchored it to other memories. Is that it? That's the answer, isn't it? All these songs, like that joy of watching Mariah Carey in that Christmas music video and finally divorcing Tommy Mottola, like that's linked right in there for us, of watching her career bloom and us copying the cassette off our uncle's cassette so we could all have it. Like, is that not a common experience?
I don't know if I should copy anything off my uncle's cassettes, but I'm happy for you to have that experience.
Like So Crocodile Rock and Beautiful Sunday by Daniel Boone. Two songs.
Daniel Boone?
Yeah.
That's a good
My Beautiful Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much we can sing before someone flags copyright.
I know, before copyright.
Those were songs and actually Wings as well. I had the Wings Greatest Hits on cassette and I used to.
Oh, My Love Can Tire.
Oh, fucking love My Love Can Tire. And Jet and Live and Let Die. Uncle Albert, which is just such a weird song, but I love it because I used to listen to those on my little brown cassette player.
Aww.
Same one I recorded my How Bizarre compilation on.
Wow.
And all those
really
are kind
traveled.
of linked to some of those it was a best of 70s, I think it was. It had Daniel Boone and Elton John's Crocodile Rock. And I think all those are linked in there too. So one day when maybe I've forgotten everything else I know.
Well,
these will be my triggers.
Muireann Irish
and Neil Diamond.
Muireann Irish has a passionate interest in exploring the impact of dementia on the brain, which has led to some interesting discoveries about memory and the strong links music makes in our memory banks.
If you think about the types of memories that you can actually remember and the ones that are important to you or have left a sort of a salient mark in terms of your own sense of self, inevitably they will have an emotional component.
It's really interesting talking about the formative years where, we kind of pick up those experiences of really being like those late teens to early 20s. As my previous career as a radio station music director, it would be the songs that always test really well with the demographic of people always come from that particular time. Regardless of what their age was, if you look back at when their formative years was, those were the songs that are always, we want to hear those, we want to hear more of those over and over again, instead of favouring something newer. What does that say about our ability to change as we get older?
Yeah, and I think that's such a lovely point, because if we think about some of the studies that have been done on music in dementia, for example, again, it always seems to be the music that comes from that pivotal sort of formative time, they're the songs that resonate much more effectively in terms of calming the individuals, promoting a sense of well-being and enabling them to actually delve back into memories that are intact and talk about memories and events that maybe family members or friends haven't actually ever heard of before because it's from a time prior to their birth even. So it's really powerful, this music evoked memory phenomenon that we see in the literature. I think as well, it makes sense if you think that, you might have had your wedding dance to a certain song. It's going to have that emotional sort of stamp on it as well that will make it have a privileged encoding. So it's going to be more likely that you'll respond to that in an emotional way rather than, just hearing something in the car when you're driving to and from work every day, because it's pinned back to a very specific, evocative and, personally relevant event from your own time, your autobiographical history.
It reminds me of a time when I was working with people who were living with dementia in the aged care sector, and the activities that always went better were the ones where we didn't rely on them to have any great input into an outcome. So other than enjoying it. So, for example, I would run a session of art with one of the groups. There was quite a range of outcome with the individuals there. Some of them painted abstract, really colourful pieces on the paper. Some of them found the brushes a little bit too much to use, so they'd use their fingers and still make some quite nice works. And then there was one lady I remember who picked up the brush, poked it into the paint and then put it straight into her mouth. And when I asked her why she did it, she said that it looked delicious, like something she wanted to eat. So for people living with dementia, is it more about the senses and trying to actually help them to just be in the moment?
Yeah, I think there's a huge aspect of it in just constraining the experience to the present moment and taking the pressure off as well, as you said, to not have it as working towards an outcome, but actually the process in itself is just one of enjoyment and experience. And if we circle back to our opening kind of topic about pleasure, it's interesting because the studies that have been done on music, in particular in dementia, in Alzheimer's disease, show that when we image the brain of people who have got Alzheimer's disease, that set of structures, that frontostriatal brain circuit that I was mentioning, doesn't appear to be as damaged as many of the memory structures or the spatial memory or the navigation structures are. And they remain preserved for a remarkably long time into the disease course. So it seems that if you can tailor the activity to the individuals with Alzheimer's disease, they can derive pleasure from those experiences through this circuit. And so that's been suggested to be one of the reasons maybe why music therapy and art therapy are so effective, because that capacity to experience pleasure is still there. It's just finding the right key to unlock it, using maybe personally relevant stimuli or personally relevant music. So it's really interesting. And I think one of the things that I particularly like about music is that you can use these types of approaches in even the very severely impaired individuals living in, assisted or residential aged care. They don't need to be able to, communicate verbally, but more often than not, this approach will reach everyone. It's like the great sort of universal communicating tool. You'll find people who haven't spoken being able to sway or tap or move along to the beat. And it just seems to be a very potent way of engaging again, even if it's non-verbally, but communicating back to people who have been, unreachable for a time.
Hey there, just wanted to take a little breather from today's episode and say thank you so much for listening to us. Make sure you never miss an episode by hitting the follow button on your podcast app now. And while you're there, we'd love it if you left us a review. It really does help to boost us so we can reach even more people. You can also check out our Patreon page to see how you can access even more content at patreon.com/reframe of mind. And remember to tell everyone you know about us, because the more people we get talking about mental health, the more supported we'll all be.
So you were talking earlier about your use of music to study. Music for me can sometimes be a disruptor, though. Like if I'm actually trying to focus on something, there are certain types of music that I can't have in the background because they'll distract me. I want to sing instead.
I
not my own lyrics.
I could never program music for radio while I was listening to music.
Same.
Nah.
And you know why? For me, because when I was programming music, every time I'd see a song title, I'd hear the song. Because I would then go, okay, that's what that sounds like. I need to pick something that's no more than 2 up or down, because that was the rule. Can't go from a ball breaker into a ballad was the rule.
I think I even called that category ball breakers, didn't I?
You did. Yeah. You did. We decided to go bold and call it ball breaker.
Yeah.
But I'd actually hear the tracks as I was programming them. I didn't play them, but in my head, because I was familiar with them. Anyway, you know what I'm saying.
I know. Oh, well, I know what you're saying.
So for the same reason, if you guys were having a music meeting, as you often did, or once a week you did, at the desk opposite me in the same office, and we're cranking out those new tunes to evaluate, I couldn't fucking concentrate. Fucking hell. All I want to do is remember what Love Really Hurts Without You sounds like so I can compare it to View from a Bridge, and I'm hearing is this new music. Wouldn't come.
I saw on something been going around on TikTok lately, and it's like this it's this short bit, and it's like, you know, the voiceover. If you can hear both of these songs playing at the same time, you might have ADHD. And is like, one of them is Eminem's Lose Yourself, and another one is, I don't know, some Little Mix song or something like that. And they're both playing at the same time, and I can hear both of them perfectly. And I don't think that's an ADHD thing. I think that's a program director thing. Because I used to sit there in my office and I'd listen to like 4 different streams of music actually playing out of a physical radio or listening to something else. And I'd just be monitoring all of them, listening to all of them at the same time, which I think I just kept splitting my brain, which is probably where it's all gone.
Come back, Miranda.
I lost those parts and they're never coming back now.
They wandered off permanently. Track number 5.
So I concur that it's very distracting, because when you listen to things like that, I couldn't have a conversation with somebody when I was in that mode. If someone came in to try to talk to me and I've got 3 other streams of music going, they're talking to me, but honestly, I'm listening to whatever the jock on air is doing with something or other back on this other stream. And then you've said something, I'm like, I don't know, I was hearing Pink.
And actually Pink's voice was coming out of your mouth while you were trying to talk to me. Bit of a weird visual.
When I used to program music at my job in Brisbane, I used to not listen to music when I was doing that because it was so distracting. But what I actually used to listen to, which I found for some reason engaged my motor skills, and I got work done much faster, was I used to put audiobooks on, or podcasts, but mostly audiobooks actually, because I think I got engaged. I don't know if what I was doing just became a motor skill. I could still hear the songs in my head and line up the numbers and stuff like that, but I got so engaged with the story that was being told that it just went and flew straight out. But if you played music at that time, took twice as long to do.
Did you actually absorb the stories? Like, could you comprehend what you were listening to while you were doing that?
I think so. Yeah.
Because
you want to quiz me on a plot?
I would still.
I can tell you some of the stories I listened to were a little bit raunchy, and I thought,
were they? You had listened to stories about butterflies, weren't you?
I derived a certain joy out of knowing that I had headphones on, listening to erotic novels, and no one could stop me.
Oh, she's just programming the music again. Gonna go program some music, guys. See you in a couple of hours.
Rebellion wherever you can take it. I mean, sometimes it was young adult fiction, and sometimes it was he thrust her against the ring. He was a boxer in this series I remember listening to. I
was wondering what sort of ring. Go.
The hot werewolf removed his shirt. Then he removed his pants. He howled at the moon.
See, that would completely distract me. I wouldn't be able to program music with that going on either.
I was in for it. Go on. What do we come to here? We can't concentrate on something if music is playing at the same time.
Yeah, and to backtrack from the porn a little bit.
Well, I mean, back to the Susie Quattro, seemed to be some concentration happening when that was playing.
Yeah, that's right. And hopefully it was pleasurably rhythmical.
Beats per minute.
Bill Thompson
relayed
his own experience.
Sorry, Bill.
Sorry,
you had
Bill.
to follow that.
Really sorry, Bill. But he relayed his own experience with trying to work with tunes happening in the background.
It's really annoying. I just can't have it as background wallpaper. I wish I could, but even if I'm reading a novel, if music's in the background, I'm constantly sort of shifting over to the music and listening to it and losing concentration on the book. So my own experience is that I prefer not to have music on if I'm involved in some other task that I care about.
It's funny you say that. In my years of scheduling music for radio stations, I could not listen to music while I did the music scheduling. Otherwise, it was too much. I could put on an audiobook and be completely engaged in a fantasy world and do both of those tasks at the same time, but put some music on and I couldn't focus on the other task anymore.
It's remarkable how little it interferes with a lot of tasks. So we all know that we can drive pretty well while listening to music. And in fact, driving is the new concert hall. I mean, it's sort of like the modern day concert hall of music. It's where most people listen to music. It's where most music is consumed, is in a car these days, unfortunately, but that's just reality. And it doesn't really interfere. And for most people, it doesn't interfere with reading. People often listen to music while they're studying, and it doesn't really have much of an effect. One of the studies that we did in our lab showed that it's really only if you have really fast and loud music that it starts to interfere with comprehension of written material. So if you give people kind of dense material to read and to try to comprehend, and then you ask them comprehension questions later, music doesn't really have any negative effects unless it's loud and fast, in which case it's distracting and comprehension just sort of decreases.
Fast and loud interferes is what I'm hearing. Same experience from Susie Quattro, I guess.
Well,
this wouldn't have happened
that she'd help.
Wouldn't have happened if we were listening to Neil Diamond.
No, it wouldn't have. Maybe if one of the person involved was called Caroline, it might have been a romantic interlude. I don't know. Maybe we need to turn away from something like that now and come.
You were the one who brought up bonking
songs. I know. That was way, way, way at the beginning.
It's been a walk.
Episode,
it's been a dance since then.
It's been a thrusting movement through the whole episode.
Well, I mean, I think we started off this episode with the best of intentions of talking about mental health and music, and somehow we've got it into Andy's sexy slutty time soundtrack.
But, sex is important for good mental health.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, it is. I'm not shitting on that.
So I should not.
That's in those other videos.
Each to their own, if that's what you like to do.
Objectively.
But not me. Annie Harvey.
Oh, we can't make Annie Harvey follow that. We can't put a guest after that reference to scat movies. Come on, give us something so we slightly forget that just a little bit. Like, we know that Annie's going to talk about the benefits of singing and dancing. Can we somehow get that in a story without the porn aspect?
Maybe we can. Look, I'm not a huge dancer, but I think I've even recently made comments that I don't like dancing. Much like I said, I don't like editing, but I love editing.
Do you love dancing though?
I kind of do. And I've worked it out. Like when I go to clubs with people, and it's a long time since I've actually been to a club. So, hypothetically, when I go to clubs with people, it still feels like a solitary experience to me. So I'm not a dancer with people, but I am. But I've got to have the right music because for me, it's about what it does internally to me that makes me want to dance.
Yeah.
So if the music isn't quite right and everybody's dancing and it's danceable music, I'll kind of get up, but I won't really my heart and soul won't be in it, you know what I mean? There's one time when I was actually helping a friend with a thing he was doing with the gay community. He's part of a fashion kind of competition. So his line of clothing was being modelled by really cute guys on Oxford Street in this event. We'd been to one of these nights together and it was really late and we decided to go out for a bit of a boogie afterwards, and I was up for it. It's okay because I do like a dance. If I'm tired though, don't like a dance.
Who does?
I know, right? It was about, 2:30 in the morning by this stage, and I was tired. Like I'd been up quite early. We'd really put a lot of energy into what we were doing. I'd been to work that day, all of that, and I was basically falling asleep in the club. But he was still off there having a bit of a boogie. And then the introduction to my favourite Cyndi Lauper song of the time came on.
It went, yeah.
I was fucking awake. I was like, pooh, straight to the dance floor, and I was up and with it.
You were Pavloved. to the
I
dance floor?
was, because, like, it was quite rare in those days to hear Cyndi Lauper anymore on a dance floor. This is 2008. It was her dance CD that she had out at the time called Bring You to the Brink, and I loved it. Like, I love all of her stuff. But this particular song is one that I would play on repeat in my car, full pelt, every time I drove around. And it came on in the nightclub, and I'm like, fucking yes! And I was up there having a good old dance. So it's about context for me. And I really obviously enjoyed it. I love it. I love a good sing and dance.
Salsa music, a bit like that for me after I joined I took up some salsa lessons one time after I bought a red dress. It looked like a salsa dress. I thought I should use this. Yeah, so now whenever I hear that kind of salsa-y beat, it makes me feel like doing a bit of salsa dance.
Oh, there you go.
There you go, indeed. So now that we've transitioned away from the horrible stuff, Annie Harvey recognises the benefits of singing and dancing in the work that she does as a wellness coach.
People who are creative, so if you like singing or dancing, or I often mix the two in my kitchen, and I don't really care what the neighbours think. And I also have I have some very stressful visits to my dad in a nursing home presently, and then they're never particularly joyful visits, should I say. So on the way there, because I try and get rid of the stress before I get there, which sounds bizarre, but it definitely helps me. And on the way back, I'll have a couple of playlists on Spotify, and I've got a 7-minute drive. So I will just play 2 tracks and shout them out at the top of my voice in my car on the way home. And that's a physiological movement, I guess. And it's creativity, and it tells the brain, bizarrely, that it's safe and releases that stress from the body.
So we've talked plenty about listening to music, but what about when we play it instead of consume it? Mr. Hugh Kearns from the College of Medicine and Public Health at Flinders University talked about music as a hobby and the enjoyment it can bring.
People don't want to just get a guitar and play. They want it to be a number one hit. And of course, that's a bit unfair to all those other people who spent their lifetime practicing. You think, I'm just going to get good at it this afternoon. Hang on, they all had to start as well and work your way through. So again, that's where I think about being kind to ourselves and saying, look, if you'd like to play music or you'd like to do a podcast or whatever, well, have a go and see how it works, and then you get better at it. And I would also do it because you enjoy doing it, not because it's going to be a bestseller, and because then you can enjoy the process of doing it.
Louise, I know you're a fine musician and you once practiced every day.
I do believe we've shared earlier in the podcast series about that time I faked the flute for a year. But after I faked the flute for the year, I actually did end up taking up percussion. I think I don't like to blow things. I just...
All of that wind.
I don't like to blow things. I just want to hit them.
It's dizzying.
For someone who's done a lot of talking and used a lot of lungs, I don't want to expend any more air. Yeah, but percussion I absolutely loved, like whether it was tuned percussion, your glockenspiel and your xylophone, love that, but love the big sounds out of things. I actually ended up with a drum kit when I was young. I think it was my parents' attempt at, but they never let me play it in a fun way. They made me have the drum pads on it, and it didn't even make the loud noise. So I hardly ever used it. But once I joined things like the concert band, I found I love timpanis and bells and all those kind of big, I hardly ever played drum kit, but all those big noise, big sound instruments I love to play.
Wow.
And then I went on to play glockenspiel in the Inverell Sapphire City Concert Band for a number of years as well. So,
hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. And again, it's that playing music, being a part of that creation of the process. It's really fun, and it's so different than listening to it. It's actually being a part of creating something, even if that something isn't necessarily good. How fun is it to walk past a drum circle and just have a bit of a go?
Not that I've done that, but I can imagine that would be fun. I played in the school band and I took up saxophone. I think I took up saxophone because I liked the idea of playing saxophone, but I didn't like playing saxophone. And I never practiced very much. And I was really crap. And the band wasn't that good, so I left very quickly.
Maybe you too only didn't like to blow.
I didn't. I really, all my life, wanted to learn piano. I just wanted to learn piano, but we didn't have enough room in the house for a piano. Actually, my parents bought me a keyboard at one point so I could start learning, but then, I don't know, I just had it in my head that it had to be a full piano or nothing.
I have a keyboard, still have it, my Casio.
Mm.
I learned Love Me Tender.
Oh.
I learned from books that have the notes written in the music.
Ah, yeah.
Which is kind of funny because then every time I've taught myself music, I don't really sight read. I actually now write the notes underneath it, and then that's how I remember the music.
Oh. See, reading music is something that I always wanted as well. Always wanted to be able to look at a sheet of music and just play it. You know, it's not a very common skill. A lot of people learn music by rote. You know, they'll actually study it, which is fine. It's how a lot of musicians work. But to give them a piece of music and say, play this for me, they'd have to take it away and study it for a bit.
And that's what I had to do. You know, I could do all the complicated things on some of those things, but I had to learn it. It was never hard to learn. Like, it was easier for me to learn music than it was to learn math. And it was easier for me to learn how to play a complex song than it was to learn words from a page without translating them into a complex song. But yeah, something about that part of it, the music for me, that activated. It's interesting. So as it turns out, unsurprisingly, as director of the Music, Sound and Performance Lab at Macquarie University, Bill Thompson also loves to play music and says he sees many benefits.
I do set myself challenges. They're not really significant challenges, but they're just like, oh, I think I'll learn this new piece. And I'll spend a few weeks learning some new piece. And I'll learn it to a point where I feel that I can appreciate it. I can get the emotional qualities out of it. It can affect me in a positive way. And then I'll move on to another. So I get that sort of sense of trying to nurture skill and engage with what's involved in playing music. But I also just improvise on the piano in a really casual way. And I don't really put pressure on myself, and I just explore. I mean, it could be as little as playing a 3-note pattern with my left hand and then exploring a melody with it could be just virtually nothing that a 5-year-old could do. In fact, I used to teach piano to kids, and they didn't find that a problem at all. I'd say, oh, let's make up a song, just play these 3 notes over and over again, and then try. They can do it. So anybody can do that kind of playing around with music. And I find that really valuable. And it's just a way of helping you kind of just set aside all your worries and just focus on something that's easy, pleasant, imaginative, and it's like a timeout for me. So those are a couple of things that I do. I do the same with the guitar. I'm not a particularly good guitarist, but you can get a lot out of playing a few notes and moving your hands around, and it can be pleasant and creative.
So if you can get a lot out of playing a few notes, Andy, what have you gotten out of learning a few songs or more?
Well, like I spoke earlier about always wanting to learn piano when I was younger, and I finally took that opportunity when I was about 45, later in life. But along with that as well, remember I said that I wanted to learn how to sight read music?
Yeah.
Well, I found a piano teacher who has got a method that incrementally builds up on what you've learned and teach you to sight read as a result. So I'm learning how to sight read music and play piano. How was that?
Does it involve you writing down the method to the sight reading to the lyrics of tune of How Bizarre?
No, can't say I've had to do that. You were saying earlier how you learned to play by writing down the names of the notes. The way I'm learning, the actual names of the notes don't really matter in the end. It's important to know which notes are which on the keyboard without a doubt, but the way that my teacher is teaching me, which I've seen in other methods before as well, but not to the way he does it, you actually learn the position of the notes in relation to each other. So if I can see that the piece is actually in C major, I know where to put my hands. If I can see that it's in C minor, I know where to put my hands. That sort of thing. So,
but do you know if Mozart was in C minor?
I don't know. But maybe you could sing it to me later. The tunes that I'm learning aren't ones that I grew up with or anything like that, because they're the practice pieces from the books that I've got. I don't know, it's really satisfying to be able to sit down in front of the piano, open it up, open a page, and just be able to play.
The mental health of it all. How do you think that playing piano has affected your mental health?
Oh, you know what? When I actually feel like I'm stuck, when I'm mentally stuck, and I think to sit down at the piano, make a conscious choice to do it, things move because I'm using both sides of my brain is what I put down to it. It's almost like I can feel my brain working sometimes. So when I'm playing and I'm looking at both the bass and the treble and I'm playing with both hands, I can feel the little switches in my brain to kind of glance here, glance there, play this, play that. It's really cool. Love it.
See, so much of music, like the actual act of playing music for me, once you've learned a piece, it feels almost meditative because you're essentially repeating the same actions over and over again once that challenge of having to learn a piece is actually out of the way for me, it's kind of relaxing to slip into that comfort zone of something that you know how to do.
If I put the book down, I won't remember how to play it. I'm literally reading it. I need the music there. And I always used to wonder why, musicians always had the music there in front of them. If they learnt it and they knew it, then what the hell were they looking at and why were they doing it? You know what I mean? But I can say, like hand on heart, that I actually need the music there to play it because I couldn't do it. It's like reading a book with my fingers. It's weird. It's great. And it is meditative. Like once I've actually sight read a piece and I'm familiar with it, then it's not like I have to relearn it all over again, but, having the piece there, it's like when you pull out a CD or a record or stream a bit of music, you hit play and it's going to play. So for me, with that, it's like pulling out a piece of music and I hit play on my brain.
I suppose it's about what Bill told us about music having that expectation, that anticipation where you know what's coming next, and it fills in that satisfying piece for you because essentially the playing is doing that too.
Sometimes though, with that anticipation, if I anticipate that I'm coming out to a difficult bit, I will stumble. It's like, oh shit, there's that bit. Oh no. And then sometimes I'll get through and I go, yes. And then the next time I go to play, I go, oh shit, that's a difficult bit again, and I'll stumble again. So anticipation works both ways, I think.
So the piano is a solo activity. How has that helped facilitate a connection to other people?
For me, I don't know if it has necessarily, other than with my piano teacher and maybe some other people who have learnt with him, over time. But definitely, I could go and I wouldn't, but I could probably go and join a band and connect with people. And
an old ragtime band?
Yeah.
Playing the honky tonk?
Could be Ragtime Sam. I'd love to play honky tonk. How cool would that be?
I loved being in community concert bands. It's not something I've done for a long time, but when I moved to, like in Inverell, it was one of those things where I moved for the sake of my career and didn't know anybody where I was there. Actually being able to look it up and go, oh, well, is there a community concert band? Go up. I don't have a glockenspiel of my own. So I actually just called the local band because often a lot of those community bands practice out of high school spaces. So they have the high school equipment that they can use for things like percussion. So they can roll out the timpanis and the xylophone and stuff like that. And then, so I remember at that time because some of those tuned percussion instruments are quite expensive. I just called the local band and said, hey, do you need anybody? And they said, yeah, because as cheesy as it sounds, I became a bit of a band geek. So it connected me with all these people who were local that who had lived there for a long time that maybe I wouldn't have necessarily been able to connect with as an outsider if I just moved to the town and didn't get involved in something. And they came from like a diverse range of backgrounds and ages, and it was fun. It gave me something to do and focus on. It filled up Tuesday nights that otherwise I might have just spent at home watching TV. And we did performances everywhere, and we travelled for little concerts, and we'd turn up at the opening of the new Rotunda on a Saturday morning. It was was really
nice
creating
shared experience there.
Yeah, that sense of community. And it doesn't matter that it wasn't for a professional reason. I wasn't about to join the conservatorium and become a a worldwide percussionist. I was happy just belting out my little Harry Potter tunes on the glockenspiel because it was fun for everyone.
I mean, that's an awesome example of how music can actually connect with people directly.
Yeah.
But there is also the indirect influence of music that supports other activities.
Which Derek McManus found through one of his special interests after serving in the South Australian Police Special Tasks and Rescue Group.
We are social animals, and some people say I'm more social than the average animal. I like to be connected to people, and I like to talk and spend time. I've started learning how to dance, ballroom dance, Latin dancing, and I enjoy going out and socialising with those people. It's just a beautiful community to be in, and I know that replenishes me as well.
So I know someone who's recently taken up DJing. And, when we say taking up DJing, they're doing it for pleasure as a hobby because they wanted something extra to connect with. There's all the stuff attached to it, the possibility of work and that sort of thing, but that's not the prime driver. It's really about connecting with the music. But it kind of got me thinking about sometimes having been a music director myself, as you have, and also sometimes we make mixtapes for ourselves and we make up places to go musically when we're trying to...
Like the Boom playlist?
Like the Boom playlist, like the bonking songs, that sort of thing.
That's not on my Spotify. Is that on yours?
I don't have a bonking song Spotify. No. I'm
do,
sure there is one if you looked, though.
I have an empowerment playlist, though, on my Spotify.
Do you?
It's full of all songs not Boom songs, but they're like the strong women songs, actually. There's a lot of those kind of ones on there.
I can imagine. You are a woman, I hear you roar.
That's on there. It's on there.
I can imagine it would be.
Nah.
What else is on there?
I tell you what's not on there. Neil Diamond.
Oh. Because he makes you go soft and gooey. He makes you... Neil makes you submit. And that's not what you want in a powerful woman mix.
Jason Mraz isn't on there as well.
Oh, full submission there.
No. Okay. On my Strong Women playlist, I got Natasha Bedingfield, Unwritten.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah. Got Lizzo. Got Helen Reddy. Got some Little Mix. Lady Gaga, Eurythmics, Annie Lennox, Joan Jett.
Nice.
Oh, some Cyndi Lauper here. There's a bit of She-Bop. I mean, it's quite a big playlist. I can't tell you everything that's on here. I'm just trying to...
That's fine. What was the inspiration behind the tracks that you've chosen? What was the feeling you're wanting to elicit?
It's people that have something to say and aren't afraid to say it.
They're ones that have spoken to you.
One of the ones on here is Flawless by Beyonce, of her self-titled visual album, and it's the version that features Chimamanda Ngozi, if that's how I say it, because that song, like, she's remixed that song, so it basically features the "We Teach Women Not to Shrink Themselves" speech that she delivers in the middle of it, and I think that's really powerful. I've got Gloria Gaynor's "I Am What I Am" because I need no excuses.
Yeah.
Lizzo's Soulmate's on here, and we spoke about that before. Lady Gaga's Born This Way. I suppose they're all songs about personal empowerment from strong women. That's probably... So the feeling that it gives me is, yeah, let's go, girls.
Awesome. Yay.
But Shania's not on here.
Well, it's never too late is all I can say. I'm going to have a look at my playlist. I've actually got a playlist. I've called that playlist Happy Making. Because these are songs that if I'm in a funk, or not even if I'm in a funk, if I just kind of want to feel a bit silly or happy, I'll put this on and suddenly like I'm bopping away and I'm getting into it. It starts off with Dance Little Lady Dance, Tina Charles. It goes into Feels Like I'm in Love by Kelly Marie. It's a disco song from the 70s.
I know.
A bit of Jackson 5, I Want You Back. It's only the beginning.
Passing judgment, aren't I?
You are passing judgment. I'll probably pass judgment on some of yours as well.
Where's Cannibal Corpse?
It goes both ways. Don't know. Never heard. Oh, who's that? Is that like
Cannibal Corpse?
I've got Drop the Pilot from Joan Armour Trading.
Nice.
I've got Vicar and Linda on there. When Will You Fall for Me?
Oh, that's
Groove
a sweet song.
Delight.
Yeah.
There's songs that I connect with because I like to kind of sing along to things as well. And I like to, have a bit of a sing, have a bit of a...
Do they always work when you're in a bad mood, though, to change your mood?
Some of them do. Dance Little Lady Dance kind of does. And the Jackson 5 track does as well. Because it's happy. It's a happy song. Like, it's a really... It's upbeat and it's melodic.
Do you know the song Happy? The Pharrell Williams song Happy?
Yeah.
Honestly, that got played so much it gave me the shits every time it came on.
Burnt.
They
pinked it. It was cute when it was first released, but then it just got overplayed.
Well, I think it speaks to how some songs might work for us some of the time and some songs don't work other times. Because you're right, at first, Happy was happy. And then by the end, it was, shut up, Pharrell Williams, stop singing about happy.
This is something that Professor Muireann Irish, a cognitive neuropsychologist at the Brain and Mind Centre at the University of Sydney, unpacks for us as to why music doesn't always work.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea that we might have a little sort of almost like a survival kit where if we're in a really distressing, or at work, if you're overly stressed or something, that you could have your sort of go-to playlist that will calm you. I mean, there's always the worry that you might end up habituated to the music or that you might end up starting to associate the music with the stressful circumstances. So we don't want to ruin the playlist.
Song.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that it's a good point, because I think at the moment everybody is very overworked, stressed, overburdened, and we can't connect the way we used to. So we should actually be thinking about how do we develop a little toolkit, and it could be music, it could be, I don't know, mindfulness, exercise, but just strategies that we know we can sort of pull out when we need them. And I think that's something that a lot of people probably would benefit from.
One of the things I was thinking about with music then is that sometimes a song can kind of act as a shortcut, I suppose, and maybe that's a shortcut in the brain as well with a new neural pathway. So I'm wondering if could we consciously create those? You know, you hear a song, it instantly reminds you of that time that you felt good getting married. Could we consciously try and associate one type of cue to elicit that response?
It's definitely possible. And there's a large literature on this idea of conditioning, where you gradually pair one stimulus with another outcome or response, so that over time it becomes a sort of an automatic or reflexive response. Whether we could actually consciously do this and then make sure that our response was the same every time, I'm not so sure, because people change and, you know, our feelings change from one moment to the next. And we might hear, you know, the wedding song on one day, but be in a particularly bad mood with your spouse and then think, oh God, I can't believe I loved dancing to this. We're so variable that it's very hard to predict, you know, hard and fast kind of set of rules that we could roll out across all contexts. And I think that's one of the great things about studying, you know, human cognition, is that there's so many different variables that go into the mix and can change. And we change over time as well. That if it was as easy as just, you know, oh, if we press play, then this will elicit this response, we'd be kind of reduced back to almost Pavlovian dogs, you know, just salivating at the bell. But, you know, we're far more complex than that.
Speaking of relationship songs, like Muireann said, I really feel like I'm never again going to tie any music that I like to a relationship, because 2 songs have been ruined for me, at least 2 that I can think of over time. And one was Lone Star's Amazed, which I bloody love that song. And the other one was Sixpence None the Richer, Kiss Me. No.
Oh, I love that song. That's cool.
Not anymore.
Bugger it.
Not anymore.
You're going to have to desensitize yourself to it and bring it back into the fold. That's
or I could find something new.
It's cute. Well, you could.
Find something new and exciting.
Detach from the relationship from the song and enjoy the song again.
One thing I think is interesting is, like we're talking about kind of pop music, is the same phrases repeated over and over and over again. And we know that forming beliefs involves us just telling ourselves the same thing over and over and over again. Kind of makes me wonder, sometimes is music actually affirming our beliefs, or is it creating them?
Yeah. You know, sometimes we pick up on different messages when we're ready to hear them. Maybe we kind of latch onto songs when we're actually in the frame of mind to actually take the message on that they're saying. There's something we could have asked Bill or Muireann. Next season.
The mental health of music then, because we have dedicated the Musicless special about the Musicless special to music. What is the mental health of it all? Music good, mostly.
Yeah, music good.
Neil Diamond good, mostly, unless you're a hooligan.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a pretty rare encounter to find somebody who doesn't enjoy music. Bill, in the last episode, was saying that there is actually a group of people who don't derive any pleasure from music, which we were both aghast at. You can't imagine it. Can you imagine not enjoying music? But not a judgment on them. It's just a fact that some people just don't derive any pleasure from it. But I think mostly we all have music that we like and we can get some pleasure out of it in some way or other. And it can actually enhance our lives.
I think it's another tool for our toolbox, isn't it? Another tool for our toolkit, because as we build this mental health toolkit of things that we can call on to help us maybe when things aren't so great, we can let's have a ready to go playlist of our favourite songs.
Let's bust out baby Michael Jackson.
You know my problem with that. See also skit at the front for R. Kelly. But, you know, to have something, they're just other tools. So there's the songs we listen to, but there's the songs we participate in. So maybe it's worth us learning to play music, even if we're not very good at it, because it's another go-to for us to distract ourselves, to help us put ourselves in a better feeling place when bad mental health looms.
And, you know, it could be as simple as drumming along to something while you're listening to it. You know, a lot of people
air guitar.
Like to kind of tap along, play a bit of air guitar, a bit of air flute like you used to play in high school.
Thank you. You hear that?
Yeah. Is this your flute? Are you going to toot your flute?
I just want to pull something out here.
Oh, I know what this is.
Because after we spoke to Bill in that chat, we were so inspired. I've used the proverbial we. You were already playing piano. And I have played music for a long time before, but not recently. All my concert band experience has pretty much, stopped a decade ago or so. I was so inspired after listening to Bill talk about the significance not only of listening to music, but actually of doing it as an activity, that I went out and got a... Oh, that's out of tune.
Ukulele.
That's not right. Ukulele.
Need to tune it.
Close.
It is close.
And because of my weird arthritic fingers, I got the bigger one. So I think it might be the baritone ukulele. So it's a little deeper. It's nice.
And I actually had no idea prior to that there were different tones of ukulele.
Now, you want to hear me play a song?
Go on.
Captain Obvious.
Captain Obvious.
There's a throwback to another podcast series.
For those not familiar with Captain Obvious, go see Elevating Experts.
Captain Obvious.
One of our other podcast series. We'll put a link in there for you to Captain Obvious. You're going to love him.
But the truth is that after talking to Bill, I went out and got this ukulele and I was so excited, and I sat up on YouTube and I learned, I think You Are My Sunshine and a couple of other things off the YouTube, and then I put it in my cupboard and I haven't played it since.
Oh. Well, I play piano. I actually practiced a little bit of piano today.
Did you? Do you remember when I went through that phase where I played the squeezy sack?
The squeezy sack.
When I was in Darwin, I bought an accordion. Remember the accordion? And I used to...
Yes.
Yeah, the squeezy sack.
I do remember.
No, I actually enjoyed the sound of the squeezy sack. Then Bella knocked it out of the top of my cupboard in my wardrobe, and now it makes a rattle. It doesn't squeezy anymore. I'm sure it can be fixed, but...
Do you want to hear what I was practicing today?
Yes, I do. Hang on. For the Reframe of Mind family band.
I'm just bringing everything over to the piano. Do you like how I did that seamless transition to piano?
Listen to these are my Guitar Hero skills.
Does that sound okay? Doesn't have to be perfect.
Don't play anything copyrighted.
Ooh.
The anticipation.
Why did that go flat? Let me do that again. That's why I forgot to step up to the next note. But I corrected it. I learned it.
Okay. Ready? Are you ready for... I can do this. I'm sure I can do this.
Okay.
You are my sunshine. That doesn't sound right, does it?
It's a bit cloudy.
Oh, wait. That should be the top one. No, it shouldn't. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
That's lovely.
Sunshine. No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up.
Okay.
You make me happy. I'm losing my iPad here with the notes in it.
Keep going. And we're laughing, but it's only because we...
When skies are grey.
Grey.
Maybe I should have tuned this. Grey.
You'll never know, dear. how much I love you. Please don't.
Oh, wait, I've got to move this to 3 frets. Hang on.
Please.
Don't take sunshine away. And that was Reframe of Mind.
Can I actually splice?
I had to play it like that to avoid copyright.
Yeah, of course. Exactly. Yeah, you did, because you definitely changed more than 10% of it.
So, play music, makes you laugh, mental health good. I think that was the moral of the story today.
Music good for mental health. Go do it.
Music good. Doesn't matter if bad. Still good.
Still makes you laugh.
So, next time on Reframe of Mind, we're going to chat to someone who reframes her experiences. Where's the happy chord? No?
None of them sound happy. Try a C chord.
Well, I am trying the C chord. It doesn't sound like a C chord.
Just try the C note.
It's in C minor, and it makes minimal use of extreme contrast that mainly implores subtle changes typical of its style.
Anywho, next time on Reframe of Mind, we chat to someone who reframes their experiences to live, love, and learn when we meet and experience the unique stylings of Lucy Bloom, who instead of focusing on what could go wrong, simply asks what could go right.
Like a chord in tune.
I almost fantasize about the best case scenario because I have just as much control over that.
You've been hearing our story, now we really want to hear yours.
Connect with @Reframe of Mind on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok and Twitter.
Or connect with @Welcome Change Media on LinkedIn.
You can also contact us via reframeofmind.com.au with your stories or suggestions for future topics.
We'd like to thank today's guests for sharing their personal stories and insights. And for more information on any of the subjects, guests or references used in this episode, please see our show notes or reframeofmind.com.au.
Reframe of Mind is a Welcome Change Media production. Here's a little ditty I like to call Serotonin Seduction. Serotonin Seduction. Give me some of that sweet serotonin, helping me in through my brain. Gonna regulate my function. Oh yeah, it's a seduction. Seduction. Sweet serotonin got me in the mood. Got me in the mood for sleep. It's a digestion and some wound healing and some sexual relief. It's a natural antidepressant. Serotonin. Sexy serotonin. Sweet serotonin.